How would we keep in touch? Answer that.
How would we keep in touch with computers if we have?
Are you sure? Okay, let me complete number A for you. How would we keep in touch if 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 we didn't? How would we keep in touch if we didn't have computers? If we didn't have computers, how would we keep in touch? Write it down on your copy. C. A. How would we keep in touch if we didn't have computers? How would we keep in touch if we didn't have computers?
Done.
Now, B. I will give you some time to select 5 words to complete this sentence. If she comma going out with her. We have he, beautiful, wouldn't, isn't, wasn't, being, be. You can select up to 5 words. If she,
Okay.
okay, can you tell me now?
If she isn't beautiful, he wasn't be going out with her.
Okay. If she wasn't beautiful, if she wasn't beautiful, if she wasn't beautiful, if she wasn't beautiful, he wouldn't be. He wouldn't be going out with her. He wouldn't be if she wasn't beautiful, he wouldn't be going out with her.
Okay.
Now moving to C, we have if people comma be fewer wars, be fewer wars. If people are you ready now? If people Okay, I think we have a word missing here. Okay, you can choose this word as well. Tolerant. Okay, let me complete this one for you. If people, do you want to
if
guess?
people
If people,
if people are
okay, where? If people were,
well,
if people were,
more,
yes, more.
there wouldn't
If people were more tolerant, if people were more tolerant,
be fewer
okay, there would be fewer wars. There would. If people were more tolerant, there would be fewer wars. Fewer. If people were more tolerant, there would be fewer wars.
okay
Okay, moving to D. If you couldn't or wouldn't. If you,
couldn't
okay, yes, couldn't. If you couldn't. If you couldn't speak,
speak
spoke or speaking.
speak
Yes, speak. If you couldn't speak what?
Eng-
English,
if you
right?
couldn't English
Okay, if you couldn't speak English, after that,
we
okay, if you
spoke
couldn't, okay, if you couldn't speak English,
we
couldn't or
spoke
wouldn't,
uh,
we wouldn't, wouldn't. If you couldn't speak English, we wouldn't be able to communicate. If you couldn't speak English, we wouldn't be able to communicate. If you couldn't speak English, we wouldn't be able to communicate. If you couldn't speak English, we wouldn't be able to communicate.
done
Okay, moving to D, we need to rewrite the situations using given beginnings. Okay, we have a condition here. A. If I were you, I would go to a dentist. If I were you, I would go to a dentist. Now we need to write this suggestion using the given beginning. You should. You should.
go to a dentist
Yes, you should go to a dentist. You should go to a dentist. Okay, get ready to write on your copy. D. Rewrite the suggestions using the given beginnings. A. If I were you, I would go to a dentist. You should go to a dentist. You should go to a dentist. Now B. You should report it to the police. You should report it to the police. Why don't you?
Report it to the police.
Yes. Why don't you report it to the police? Why don't you report it to the police? Why don't you report it to the police? You should report it to the police. Why don't you report it to the police?
Done.
Now see, you should take hot water. If I were you,
If I were you, I would take hot water.
yes, if I were you, I would take hot water. If I were you, I would take hot water. You should take hot water. If I were you, I would take hot water.
Done.
Now D, why don't you ask your sister for help? You should.
You should ask your sister for help.
Okay, you should ask your sister for help. You should ask your sister for help.
Done.
Okay, now using these structures, you need to provide me suggestions. Number one, I have a toothache. So what would you
Come
like to
again?
suggest me? You need to provide me a suggestion. What should I do if I had a toothache? I need to go to a dentist, right? If I have a toothache, I need to go to a dentist. So you can say you should go to a dentist, right? Okay, next one. Hmm, I lost my book. What should I do? What should I do? Can you provide me some suggestions? I lost my book.
Why don't you ask your
Friends? Teachers?
teacher,
Yes.
teachers?
Why don't you ask your teachers? Why don't you ask your friends? Okay. Next one. I forgot to complete my homework. I forgot to complete my homework. What suggestion would you like to provide? I forgot to complete my homework.
If I were you, I would report it.
You should tell your teacher, right? You should tell your teacher. Moving to the next one, we need to rewrite the given sentences as an example. Example, I don't live with my parents, so I don't see them every day. I don't live with my parents, so I don't see them every day. Now we need to rewrite as if. If I lived with my parents, if I lived with my parents, I would see them every day. If I lived with my parents, I would see them every day. Now A. They don't live far from work. They don't live far from work, so they don't use public transport. Okay. Can you tell me how are we supposed to rewrite? What should we write here?
They live far
If.
from
Okay,
work.
if. We need to add if. If.
If they live far from work,
Okay. If they lived far from work.
I would.
No, not I. They.
They
Yes.
they they would
Yes.
use
Yes.
public transport.
Yes, you are correct. Okay, now open your copy and get ready to write. Okay. If they lived, if they lived far from work, if they lived far from work, if they lived far from work, they would use public transport. If they lived far from work, they would use public transport. If they lived far from work, they would use public transport.
Done.
Now B, look at number B and tell me what should we write?
If it
Okay, if
if it
if it
sunny
okay, if it was sunny outside, if it was sunny outside,
so
no,
mm, children would
children would
children would will go for a walk.
okay, the children would go for a walk. If it was sunny outside, the children would go for a walk. If it was sunny outside, the children would go for a walk. If it was sunny outside, the children would go for a walk.
Then
Now see, my mother doesn't have time, so she will not cook dinner. My mother doesn't have time, so she will not cook dinner. But
if my mother had time,
okay, if my mother had time, if my mother had time,
she would
yes, she would,
cook dinner.
she would cook dinner, right? If my mother had time, she would cook dinner.
Then
Next one, I don't have a toothache, so I will not go to the dentist.
if I had a toothache,
Yes, if I had a toothache, if I had a toothache,
I would go to the dentist.
Okay, that is correct. I would go to the dentist. If I had a toothache, I would go to the dentist.
Done.
Now, E. He doesn't have free time, so he will not visit me.
He had free time.
If he had free time,
He would visit me.
yes, he would visit me. If he had free time, he would visit me.
Done.
Now, next one. I don't have a special skill for this job, so I will not get it. I don't have special skill for this job, so I will not get it. If
If I had special skill for this job, I would get it.
okay, if I had special skill for this job, I would get it. If I had a special skill for this job, I would get it.
Done.
Okay, moving to the next one, we have a short story. Okay, we have a outline here. Using this outline, we need to make a story. The mice very unhappy. The mice very unhappy. Dot, dot, dot. The cat killed many of them. Dot, dot, dot. Held a meeting to discuss how to get rid of the cat. Various suggestions, no plan practicable. Then a young mouse suggested that a bell should be tied around cat's neck. All welcomed at the proposal with joy. An old mouse stood up, asked who was going to tie the bell around the cat's neck. Now you need to complete this story. Okay, this will be your homework to complete this story. I will send the picture to the group and you need to complete this story. For example, you can start with once upon a time there lived a group of mouse. The mice were very unhappy. The mouse were very unhappy because there also lived a cat who used to kill many of them. So one day they held a meeting to discuss how to get rid of that cat. All the mouse they provided various suggestions, but no plan was practicable. Then a young mouse suggested that a bell should be tied around the cat's neck. Okay, like this, you need to complete this story. Can you do that?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Yes, I
moving
can.
to the next one, we have a text here. Can you name all the objects in the pictures? Would, would the life be difficult if there were no mobile phones and how? Okay, first, do you know what is it?
Calculator,
Okay, calculator. Moving to the next one, we have a picture of. Okay, do you know what is it? Okay, these two are.
computer,
Yes, these two are computers. And lastly, we have a.
smartphone,
Yes, we have a smartphone here. We have a mobile phone here. Okay, next question is, would the life be difficult if there were no mobile phones? What do you think? Would the life be difficult if there were no mobile phones?
mm, I don't think so.
You don't think so? You don't think life would be difficult without mobile phone?
Mm,
Okay, okay, then that is your opinion. Let us read the history of computers. History of computers. The first computers were very big. They were the size of a room. They were so big that people didn't have them at home. The first invented computer were very big. Every computer could only okay, every computer also only do simple math like a calculator. In the 1930s, Alan Turing had the idea for a computer you could program to do different things. In